Hello, I'm Kerry Woo. I'm a Lego master, and welcome to the Creative Push.
Today I have Kerry Woo. He is a photographer, but he's also a Lego master. Welcome.
It's great to be here, Sherry. Thank you. I'm deeply honored, and thank you for what you're doing for the creative community here in Nashville. It's such a great service.
Kerry, tell me about yourself as a child. Did you know you were going to be on a creative path?
Well, I'm first generation Chinese. I come from a large family. I have three brothers, three sisters. My dad was a four-star chef, so he's very creative with his food. When I was growing up, I used to daydream quite a bit in school. I always dreamed of being a car designer and used to draw model cars and built a ton of model cars. And then through junior high, high school, did a lot of art. I always thought I'd be this famous graphic artist. Peter Max was quite an influence on me. I actually thought I would go to Virginia Commonwealth University in Richmond, Virginia, where I'm from, and major in being a creative artist. But when I found out it was going to be an 8-year thing, I said, nope. I'm going to take the path of skip college and do the path of earn while you learn. Interesting thing, in Richmond, they had this new thing called a technical school. And being an artist, I didn't know that as a printer, you could print 100 copies of your original. So that was a whole new experience for me. So I came out of high school, became a printer, 4-color printer, and that's how I kind of got my deep immersive thing into being a creative person.
So what was your first job?
My first job out of high school, I was a printer for a paint company called Pratt and Lambert. I would print the labels that go on paint cans. Meanwhile, I discovered a love for music. When I was a paper boy, I used to listen to the transistor radio. In fact, I grew up on the transistor radio versus TV, and used to be a die-hard music fan. Used to buy my records from Sears and department stores like that. And one day, I think this is a very pivotal moment for me, I stumbled into this hippie head shop, and the guy said, here are 3 albums you need to enjoy. It was Emerson, Lake and Palmer, their first album, Crosby, Stills, Nash, and this album called Super Session. It totally changed my whole view of music. And so I used to stare at all the cardboard. I would spend hours looking through records and look at all the cardboard sleeves and things like that. Develop a healthy appetite for concerts. Probably when I was growing up, living in Atlanta then, I probably spent every bit of my disposable income on concerts.
And when did you come to Nashville, and what was it that brought you here?
I went to work for a music store, and I didn't know that record companies would come by and drop off a bunch of posters, and you would create a little display around a merchandising thing. They also had some contests. I won a couple of those contests, and then won at the time Warner Electro Atlantic, which was part of the record company Warner Brothers Electro Atlantic Records. They had a distribution arm, so they're opening up a Nashville market to help open up the country music market. So they offered me the job, and boom, here I was in Nashville. I think in 1977. Came up here, and I was the guy that not only do marketing and merchandising for new releases, but also visits all the record stores rather, in Kentucky and Tennessee. I wanted to design albums at that point, and so merchandising was a good way to kind of dabble in that. That fueled a lot of success. I think maybe 4 years in, I won National Merchandiser of the Year for the company, and that was that was great. Atari came on board, was a sister company in 1980. We launched MTV. And then, of course, gasoline prices went up and people decided, well, should I buy gasoline or records? And that was kind of like the end of the record phase.
So from there you transitioned, right?
I began to start seeing everything visually. How can you walk into a record store and it looks like nothing, but you're selling nothing but cardboard. How can you create a display that would compel consumers to pick up an album? And then you combine that visibility with in-store play. And so that was gratifying to see. It led to a love of photography as well, because I would always have to take pictures of the displays I created.
So you started kind of in the music industry working for the record label, and then you moved into more technology driven.
I started a graphic design firm when the Macintosh 128 came out. I bought into this whole desktop publishing thing. I could do black and white newsletters and business cards and what have you. And that was a really neat time because I was able to be a stay-at-home dad for like 7 years and raise my kids at home. And that was fun. Then later I went to work for an actual record company as a production manager. AT&T offered me a job to be an internet trainer when the iPhone came out and what have you. Google was just starting to get on its feet. And so I would go out with Yellow Page reps and talk to them about the internet. So I became an internet guru. And then when I left the corporate world, I became a blogger and took tons of photos.
What was your subject matter when you switched over?
Making people smile, whimsical things, people, places, and things. I stayed away from, anything controversial. It was always what's bizarre, what's unique. I still do a lot of photography.
You kind of specialize in interiors.
Yeah, I use a 3D camera called Matterport. Again, I'm kind of early adopter. And then COVID hit. Everything shut down, events. So I went to the state and got myself deemed as an essential worker during COVID. And then I was covered up photographing every possible interior, high-rise, luxury condos, buildings, what have you. And so, looking back, COVID's been really good to me. I studied a lot about branding, so I wanted to launch my brand on top of someone else's brand, which is Google. So I became a Google 360 photographer.
So tell us how you went from all of those creative areas, including your last, which was photography, and segued into Legos. How did that happen?
I went to an architectural photography conference in Las Vegas. And one of my influences, Mike Kelly, he's an LA architectural photographer. He gave an inspiring talk about how we should all have a creative outlet, maybe a different kind of photography or something else. I came away inspired. It was November, December, and I said, it's kind of slow time. I'm always thinking about the next year. And then when I came home, I saw this postcard. It came in the mail about a 10th annual Lego contest at the Nashville Public Library. And I noticed it was sponsored by a construction company. And again, my wheelhouse then was architectural. I said to Becky, my wife, I need to enter this, but I need to win it. And so I did. I created a little city. Won 3 first places, best of show, best adult, best construction. The following year, I did the same kind of thing, added more buildings and reimagined it, and again, won some top honors again. And that kind of fueled my fire. There was a Lego show in Lebanon by 3 artists, a guy named Rocco, Jonathan Lopes, and Paul Heffington, and they did all kinds of architectural artistry kind of things. I showed them my website and the kind of stuff, and said, they encouraged me, you need to do this. And so I started building things like crazy, went in yard sales, got parts everywhere. And then I met this guy, Patrick, through the Tennessee Valley Legos users group. And they were taking auditions for Lego Masters. Season 2, which I didn't feel like, no, that's nice, but thank you. I'm so inexperienced. Well, season 3 rolls around this past year. And so we decided to go ahead and try out for it. And after a long, arduous process of 6 months, we got cast as in season 3 as the Grandpappies. Out of thousands of applications, we went through that process, and so it's great to be a season 3 contestant. They call it a competition, but really, when you're teamed up with 12 other teams and everybody just wants to have fun with Lego and build some amazing things, we had a great time on the set from morning to night, and certainly being with Will Arnett, Brick Masters, Jamie, and Amy from Lego, and meeting friends all across the country and Canada. We still stay in touch every day. I think I've come full circle, doing things from model cars with plastic, building things with using imagination. When I drive down the street, I see buildings that look like Lego. I just want to reconstruct things and make them better. But I think the best thing is going to these Lego shows and being quite the influence that you can on little kids. And certainly being an older guy, there are a lot of older people, especially in assisted living homes, are building Lego now. Patrick and I will go to shows. We'll sign maybe 1,000 autographs that weekend. But when you can influence kids from 5 to 90-year-olds to do Lego, it's an expensive hobby, but I can't think of anything that brings me more joy than to create. And that's the whole thing of just constantly pushing yourself to be creative in whatever you do.
What is the one thing you wish you had known when you got started in any of these creative fields? Is there anything that you wish you had known ahead of time?
Maybe time management, or maybe not being so impulsive. Certainly photography, it's always the gear, phones, technology, just jumping in. Sometimes it was just the eye candy of things. Like, I've got to have this, and then I buy it, and then it sits on a shelf for maybe a year, and you're glad you got it when you need it. So if anything, I'm kind of a digital hoarder and a gear hoarder. And
do you have any failures?
Not asking for advice, or if you're a little too hard on yourself from a creative thing, or maybe not pushing yourself to try a little harder, give a little extra effort.
Who are your primary influences?
People who really want to give back to the community. I think of Sal Sincata from Shutterfest. There are great influences everywhere. You just have to kind of dig. Certainly read books, look at YouTube videos, get to hang out with other creatives such as yourself.
With Legos, is it possible to have your own technique? And if so, what do you think your technique is?
I would say 90% of my builds are custom, or what they call MOCs, M-O-C, my own creation. I like replicating things. I even did a big model of the very house we're living in now. I had a commission where there was a Morningstar boat for the Seventh-day Adventists, and they had it was a missionary boat that came down to Mississippi, but all they had was old black and white photograph of it. So they commissioned me to recreate that in Lego, and it's like 4 foot long and so many inches high, 20 inches high. So now it sits in the museum in Huntsville.
What motivates you?
I think just the passion for excellence to create, and certainly being nocturnal. I operate on 4 hours sleep, so I have a lot of time to create. I enjoy making people smile.
What's your biggest struggle?
Just time. Again, I mentioned earlier, time management. Not knowing when to quit, not knowing when to give up, walk away from a project, and only come back and get inspired again. I think it's just the older I get, the more I just want to embrace. But I think Lego will probably be my last creative stop, because I'm grateful to not only have the support of my family, but also feel like I've done a lot of it. Woodworking, technology, arts and crafts, but I think Lego will just kind of go on forever.
Where do you see your future with Legos?
I think if I had a dream thing, I'd like to probably make a convention circuit like the 3 artists that I mentioned before, Jonathan, Rocco, and Paul, is just to hook up with it's kind of like joining a Lego circus, and be an artist that will display their wares and do some workshops, inspire people.
People can see you on season 3 of the Lego Masters.
Right. The season just wrapped up.
And that's on Fox?
That's on Fox and
okay.
Hulu.
And Hulu, okay.
You can watch the Australian version as well. The community is amazing, the Lego Masters community. I've been able to be friends with contestants from season 1, 2, and a lot of Australian people as well, New Zealand. If you just want to be inspired by taking something, these little bricks, and create something that you're only limited by your imagination, it's fascinating. I would encourage anybody to do that.
Well, thank you so much, Kerry, for being on the Creative Push.
Thank you, Sherry. Again, it's a great honor to be on a Creative Push. You can find me on Instagram at Wooster Bricks, KerryWooPhotography.com, on Facebook at Kerry Woo. Let's spend some time and let's create something that make people smile.